So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's session where we're going to look at what's possible and the women who are changing the face of the resources sector. So, my name's Claire Chakrabarty, and I'm the Programme Manager of the Accelerating Women in METS programme here at Osmine. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're meeting today. For me, here in Brisbane, I'm acknowledging the Yagara and Turrbal people, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I'd like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us on the call today. So today's session is the first session in a three-part national webinar series, which is really designed to help students and early career professionals just like you, who maybe are exploring the question, why would you choose a career in either mining, energy, or the MET sector? So across this webinar series, we intend to really showcase the full breadth and purpose and future-focused impact that you can have in these sectors. And we also really want to spotlight the females who are working in these sectors and the real role models from these sectors, so that you can see what an amazing place it is. And we hope for you to see, like we do, that it's a great place to grow your career. So this webinar has been developed as a partnership between WISER, which is the Women in Sustainable Energy and Resources, and Osmine's Accelerating Women in METS programme, which is proudly supported by the WISE initiative, which is from the Department of Industry, Science and Resources. So if you haven't heard of WISER before, WISER is a volunteer-driven community, and it really connects and supports and champions women right the way across the sustainable energy and resources sectors. It creates opportunities for visibility, for advocacy, and for professional growth and connection. And the Accelerating Women in METS programme ties really well in with WISER's aims, because we're a national initiative that's helping female students, interns, and early career professionals build confidence and industry awareness so that they can have meaningful connections in industry through programs like mentoring and professional development, and really find that pathway into the sector. So together, WISER and the Women in METS programme have decided that we really wanted to create this programme so that we can have more visibility, more inclusivity, and more accessible opportunities for women just like you to explore the thriving opportunities in the energy, mining, and METS sector. So on today's call, I'm thrilled to be joined by some really exceptional panel of women who are working right the way across the mining and energy and METS ecosystem. And our panelists span the full value chain, everything from exploration through to operations, engineering, technology, commercial strategy, and really together they reflect just how diverse and future-focused this sector truly is. I will say I stole your LinkedIn photos up there, so if you did want to find them afterwards, you can see them. So I do apologise to the panelists. So to kick things off, I thought it'd be really great to get to know our panelists a little bit better. So maybe to begin with, Nicola, if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about you, what you do, and maybe something that you're proud of.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicola Semla. Everybody calls me Nick. I am the Chief Technology Officer for Critical Minerals Group Limited, which is a small energy and resources company focused on vanadium and vanadium flow batteries for the energy storage in the grid. I look after the IT, OT, cybersecurity, etc., but I also look after the sustainability, so the ESG, and some of the engineering for our business. I have a Bachelor of Engineering in Metallurgy. I also have a qualification in psychology and a bunch of experience in environmental space as well. Despite all my technical focus, one of the things I'm most proud of is when I see some of the young people that I've mentored over the years really starting to believe in themselves and their potential and start stepping up into amazing career opportunities. So that's it for me.
That's really awesome. Thanks, Nick. Maybe Rebecca, if you could go next.
Sure, thanks, Claire. So hi, everyone. I'm Beck, and I work as a marketing specialist at IMDEX, Global Marketing Enablement Specialist, which is quite the mouthful. IMDEX is a global mining technology company, which means we do a real broad range of things. So everything from powders and fluids that we put down a drill hole to help the drill, all the way through to software and digital platforms that help geologists make better decisions about their rock. The way I explain my job, as I said, it's a bit of a mouthful of a title, is I sort of work as a global connector. So I work with regional teams all around the world to understand what their marketing needs are and then bring those insights back to my centralized marketing team, where we sort of standardize, streamline, and deliver. And one of the main projects I look after is our global events program, which means I spend a lot of time going to different events across the world and bringing our brand to life at those sorts of trade shows and conferences. Marketing is really new to me. My background's in HR, and I made the transition about a year ago simply because I wanted to try something different. So I'm quite fortunate that my company was willing to support that because I have no marketing formal qualification or anything like that. I have a bachelor degree in commerce and majoring in human resource management, and I've recently started my MBA. So hopefully that'll help me in the marketing space a little bit. One thing I'm proud of is my willingness to sort of seek out novel experiences, I think. So the change to marketing was one of them. And I think where you go into an unfamiliar environment, it challenges you. It brings about a bit of healthy humility. And this year, I've sought that out in a few different ways, both personally and professionally. Personally, I joined a swim squad a few weeks ago, even though I haven't done any swimming since high school. And then professionally, I spent the summer or the European summer at our office in Norway, which was a great opportunity. So I think, I know that character building for the sake of it can be a bit exhausting, and I don't necessarily want to champion that, but intentionally choosing those sort of experiences where you want to share your energy has been something I've been proud of. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Beck. That sounds amazing. And yeah, I feel you on the swimming front. I've just started swimming as well, and I really ache afterwards. So
Definitely.
Maybe Mikayla, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thanks, Claire. Hi, everybody. My name's Mikayla. People call me just Mikayla, sometimes Mick. I'm on a mine site. I'm the senior exploration geophysicist, or one of a small team at Fleet Space Technologies, and I'm quite a technical role here, so I do look at a lot of data and processing. But one of the things, I'm fairly new to Fleet Space, about 6 months now, and one of the things that I'm finding out in my new role is that it's much the same as my last role as a geophysicist, but in many ways it's very different. I'm working with a number of different people in technical and non-technical roles now, which is really exciting. I'm still in that technical space, but I'm starting to collaborate more with, I guess, cross disciplines and non-technical people too. So largely very technical, but leading towards the more people-focused parts of the business as well. Something that I'm really proud of is my involvement with ASEG, which is another volunteer society. So I volunteer a lot. I'm in a lot of different groups at ASEG, which is this Australian Society of Exploration Geophysicists, I should say, which is also a mouthful. But I'm really proud of a program that I'm a part of there, which we've been running for the last 5 years, which is called CAGE. It's the Camp for Applied Geophysics Excellence. And we're basically training the next generation of geophysicists. And if you're not aware, it's something that's really, it's an issue in Australia at the moment with universities shutting departments in geoscience. And this is something that we developed at ASEG to, I guess, tackle part of that issue. So I'm really proud to be a part of that. And also now really proud to start to get involved with the STEM program at Fleet as well, which is really amazing too. So.
That's great. Thank you so much. And it's good to hear like the tie-in between yourself and Nicola, how really giving back to industry is something that makes you really proud. And I think that's something probably for all of us that we can feel as well. Ashlea, how about yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, my name's Ashlea O'Reilly. I am a principal mining engineer for a large coal mining company based here in Australia. My role, it is quite technical as well, similar to Mikayla. So I head a lot of different projects currently, particularly around the gas drainage, greenhouse emissions reporting, safeguard reporting, those sorts of areas. I have a background in geology, but one of the really nice things about this industry is, and I'm sure we'll touch on this a little bit later, is that there's so many different pathways to sort of that are opened up to you once you're in the industry and you've got that first foot in the door. So as I said, I started off as a geologist and was fortunate enough to move into the gas drainage space, then ventilation, then mine planning, and now I sit as principal mining engineer. So a lot of great opportunities. And I'm also on the WISER committee, currently serving with Nicola this year as well, which I don't think she mentioned. So big shout out to WISER because we do a lot of great work as well. One thing I'm really proud of, so being part of WISER and giving back to particularly younger women and encouraging women to join this industry, echoing a little bit with what Mikayla said as well, is that there are a lot of universities that no longer offer geology, geophysics, mining engineering roles or degrees. And I'm very passionate about young women finding financial independence. So one thing I'm really proud of is the fact that I bought my first house when I was 23, almost 24. And I think being a young woman, having financial stability and financial independence is something that can really help set you up for life. And I mean, who wants to rely on another person, let alone a man? So sorry if that's a little bit controversial.
Not at all. That's a really great achievement. And thanks all of you for sharing your stories and telling us a little bit about you. I think it's really great to see a snapshot on how broad really the sector actually is, and the depth of experience all of you have had through different things. So I'd really like to unpack it a little bit more and talk about what brought you here to the sector. So I'm just going to go to the next slide. So for each of you, maybe we'll go backwards. We'll start with Ashlea again this time. So what was your aha moment that kind of drew you into the sector or something? What was it that attracted you to resources?
Well, I grew up in Mackay and my family worked in mining, so it felt like a pretty natural career path for me. I actually thought I would start my career as an engineer because in high school I really enjoyed maths, science, technology, all of those wonderful subjects. And fortunately enough for me, a university lecturer from James Cook University came and visited my school, and he was a geology lecturer. He was actually the head of geoscience at JCU in Townsville. So the commute to Townsville wasn't too far from home. I didn't have to move too far away. And that was something that I just found when the lecturer spoke to me, he was speaking to my soul. I just was so interested in everything that he had to say, hanging off his every word. So there was actually another forum at after school, and I dragged my friend along to it and said, hey, it's at the local Mackay Entertainment Centre. I'd really be interested in this. I'd love if you could come along. And my friend, she turned out to be a civil engineer. She thought it was so boring. And I was like, yep, sign me up. I'm going to apply for this degree. And that was really the start of it.
That's awesome. You never know where those conversations are going to take you, do you?
Exactly.
And Mikayla, how about you? What attracted you to the industry?
I think, yeah, very similar to Ashlea in a sense. Like I grew up in Darwin as a child and then moved to Melbourne to complete like high school and university later. So I grew up outdoors. I loved being outdoors. I loved nature. I loved thinking of like being curious and thinking about how things worked and why things the way they were in nature. So I always knew that I was going to work in something to do with nature and the earth and something like that. I just didn't know what that was. And I didn't even know geophysics was a thing until university. So yeah, there was no sort of geoscience at the high school level for me. I went to a public school and yeah, it wasn't a thing. So I loved maths and science at school. So I just continued on that same vein, continued to be curious. And then in my first year at university, I did come across earth science, thankfully. And basically the results from that subject were I got really good grades. I had lots of fun. And I was struggling in all the other subjects that I would normally do so well in at high school. So I just really clung to that and thought if it's working, if I'm having fun and I'm doing well in it, this is my calling basically. And I just did every single earth science subject that I could. And yeah, it was just an amazing lecturer that taught, I guess, at a unit of geophysics in the second year that I then continued on third and then did a master's in it as well. But the aha moment for me, for knowing that I wanted to go into industry, for example, rather than stay in academia or join, government or something like that, which were all things I were considering as well, because I just loved the whole subject and I knew I wanted to do that. I just didn't know what doing that looked like. The aha moment for industry for me was realizing that literally every single thing that we do, live, work, eat, anything, it all comes back from the ground. It all stems back from things that we take out of the ground. And that to me was just like astounding. Like every single thing that we can think of and every single industry is touched by geoscience and by earth science. And, apart from wood and maybe a few other materials, there's not many things that we don't get from the earth. And that to me was just like, doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what community, what culture you're a part of, this is relevant to you. And I wanted to be a part of something that, that was that big. It was so much bigger than me. So it was just, that was my aha moment.
That's really true. And so, so inspiring to think of it when you think of it like that, the impact that you can have being in the sector. How about yourself, Nick?
Sorry, having a little bit of a technology moment there. I was a maths geek at school and I loved chemistry but hated biology. I was also in a rural high school, and so for women, so this is back in the, I'm showing my age here now, this is back in the 80s. So women who were good at maths and science back then, you tended to get funneled into either something medical or teaching. And I had no desire to teach people who didn't want to be in the classroom. And I had no desire to do anything remotely biological. So I was kind of a bit of an odd bod. But I was potentially always going to do something science or engineering related. I also get really bored really easily. So I knew I needed to do something that was going to be fairly broad and broad enough to keep me interested and challenged. So I set up some work experience at the lead smelter in Port Pirie in South Australia and spent a day with all of the different engineers, and none of them really appealed until the last day when I met the metallurgist and discovered that I'd met my spirit animal, basically. So I promptly enrolled at metallurgy at university and I've never regretted it. I've sort of expanded into other areas since then, so broadened my experience sort of much more into the sort of environmental and sustainability areas, and also got an undergraduate degree in psychology, but my first love is still the metallurgy. So I guess the one thing I would say is that what I didn't expect was how resilient I'd have to be to stand up to all the things that working in this industry has thrown at me, particularly early in my career as a woman in a male-dominated profession. So it's been quite the journey.
And I'm hoping we can find out a bit more about that in a little while, because I think that's exactly what we also want to talk about today. So Beck, your journey into the sector has been a little bit different, because obviously, like you said, you did a commerce degree to begin with. How did you end up in the sector, and what was your moment where you went, yep, that's where I want to be?
Yeah, I was going to say mine's quite opposite to the other panelists, because even though I grew up in WA where it feels like everyone is somehow connected to mining in some way, I think growing up on that millennial Gen Z cusp, I had a pretty negative perception of mining and the broader resources sector. I saw it as quite greedy, destructive, a bit archaic, which I think is still pervasive in a lot of young people today. But like most university students, I needed a job. And so I applied for every possible internship I could find and didn't read any of the job descriptions, and ended up getting a call from a company that I couldn't pronounce the name of, and they offered me the job. That company is Schlumberger, which I can now pronounce, and they're now known as SLB. But really, when I got the phone interview, I had to ask where they were calling from, because I didn't know based on how you say the name, spelled Schlumberger. Schlumberger is a multinational oil and gas company, and that's where things began to shift for me. So I accepted the internship, and I saw the sheer scale of the oil and gas industry and realized that some of these major players aren't necessarily all bad. And in fact, most have the capability and sort of responsibility to do better. And then I began seeing how much, innovation, intelligence, technology sits within that industry, and it really challenged my assumptions. And sort of at the same time, I guess I was learning how we need critical resources, sort of like what Mikayla was saying. And so it kind of reframed how I thought about these industries. And then there were the opportunities. So with a big company like Schlumberger, I got to go and work in Kuala Lumpur, which was really cool as a 23-year-old. And so although this is talking about oil and gas, that experience really challenged my perceptions. And then eventually when I was reapplying for a different role, I felt more open to giving mining a shot. And that's where I got the position at IMDEX. And so here we are 5 years on. So even though, I did take a bit of a different journey and didn't go in with, I kind of didn't expect to be working in mining. It's definitely been a great journey. And I've now kind of seen the diversity of different roles that this industry needs.
Yeah, I think that's such a true story. I don't know many kids who start off and say, I'm going to go into mining. Normally it's through that curiosity, those unexpected opportunities, those chance meetings, and that can really lead to that realization and of the impact that you can actually have in working in this sector. And I guess when we're thinking about the roles that you've had in the sector, obviously over time, and I think, Nick, you touched on it a little bit before, that your role has really evolved and changed over your career. Can you tell us a little bit about that, on the changes, unexpected, maybe twists and turns that you've had during your career?
Sure. I've started off as a metallurgist, processing engineer, so very much used to dealing with chemicals and big equipment and production targets and producing sort of concentrates and playing in the dirt, as I used to call it. I never expected to ultimately be as involved as I am now in sustainability and governance. And it wasn't sudden. It's a thing that evolved over time in different sites and in different ways. So I was working for a small company and we didn't have anyone with any environmental knowledge, and we needed to do some rehab and some prescribed weed eradication and sink some new pollution monitoring bores. So I ended up with all of those things. And that was where I guess my love of all things environmental sort of stemmed from. And the other aspect was around people. So it turned out I'm quite good at developing teams and working with people. So obviously I don't always get it right, but I decided to pursue that, and I now have a second degree in behavioural studies with a minor in psychology, and that sort of evolved out of some of the interactions that I had with people and realising that the only way you can really get things done is to interact with people across the entire site, not just within, your sort of small area, so the stuff around silos, that's something that really, really gets up my nose. They are so damaging to what organisations can actually ultimately achieve.
Yeah, definitely. We need to be engaging more broadly, and just because you are a geologist doesn't mean that you're not going to engage with lots of different people across your career. Now, Ashlea, your career as well. You started off as a geo, and then now you've progressed. How did that happen? What were the twists and turns along your journey?
So yes, I started off as a geologist on site at a coal mine, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be my career for life. I really enjoy it. I love that geology is at the core of so many things you do working on a mine site. But then I quickly learned that because of that, you're also so adaptable, and there's so many opportunities where you can really lean on your current knowledge base and then apply that in different ways. So I put my hand up for an opportunity in the gas drainage space for an underground coal mine. So there was a lot of gas that needed to be managed. And I think to get to where I am, I've been very intentional about putting my hand up, making sure that people know that I want these opportunities and not waiting for them to fall in my lap. So telling my supervisor, my boss at the time, hey, I saw that there's a gap here and I really want to get involved. This is where I want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and really setting that out for myself and then communicating that to the leaders in the business, to my supervisors, to say, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to give anything a go. So yes, that's led to different opportunities, further training as well. So I found that's one thing that I've really enjoyed, is that a lot of the companies, you know, once you work there for a little bit, there's opportunities for further study. So that's something that I've been lucky enough to be afforded to me. So I've undertaken further study in becoming an underground supervisor, in the ventilation space, in the mine planning space, and that's not all just degrees, but it's also learning some of the technology along the way, where they'll actually help you to learn how to use different applications and apply that going forward. And it really sets you apart from other people that are just kind of, I mean, there's nothing wrong with people that do want to stay in the same role either. We definitely need people that are sort of lifelong subject matter experts. But for myself, I was too curious to stay in the one discipline, and I thought geology really underpins everything that I want to do. So yeah, just leaned on that and being very intentional about where I want to go.
Yeah, that's really great advice, is to really lean into it and back yourself as well. And I guess, Beck, you mentioned as well that you've just taken on your new role and you hadn't got that marketing experience. What gave you you said you're doing an MBA, so you're obviously doing some study as well. What gave you the confidence to put your hand up and say, actually?
Oh, good question. I actually was just wanting to try something new. So I'd been in HR for a little while now, and I went and spoke to the exec in that I reported up to in HR, and sort of yeah, I asked about it. And at the same time, I had started my MBA, and I guess being in a room where everyone was talking about all these different career opportunities that I'd never even sort of considered, and had to be forced to do quite a lot of self-reflection, which I didn't expect in the MBA program. But a lot of it is about journaling, which really actually killed me. So if anyone is considering an MBA, be prepared to have your emotions turned upside down. And I went and spoke to my exec and explained that I was really keen to stay in the same organization, but I was wanting to try something different. And they sort of looked at what sort of skill sets I had and thought about a role in the project management team, and then thought about a role in the marketing team. And ultimately I ended up in the marketing team. And I guess it was really a thing of looking at what transferable skills you have. So I think sometimes we forget what those skills actually can move across to. I had a lot of relationships with people across the business, and my role now is a lot of relationship building. So that has really come in handy. So I think it's about, reflecting on what you're good at, and not necessarily just the technical stuff, but your personality skills, your soft skills as well. And yeah, going for it. And also it helps having the support of great leaders. I can't discount that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Mikayla, I suppose when you started, could you have imagined you'd end up at Fleet Space? It's quite different to a lot of the companies in the sector. How have you found that change and that evolution of your career?
Honestly, it's like beyond my wildest dreams. I feel like I work at NASA, but way cooler. I wasn't paid to say that. My honest opinion. But no, I started out, I had humble beginnings as well. As a geologist, I actually worked for, Ashlea, you're probably familiar with a smaller outfit known as TerraSearch out of Townsville. I worked for them for about a year at just doing field work. So just doing field work, really non-technical at all. And then started the grad program with Newcrest, which no longer exists. They got bought by Newmont, and then got sucked into that. So I've been through a merge and acquisition as well, which is also crazy. You don't usually go through that, and maybe until later in your career, but that was also really, I guess, eye-opening, and I learned things through that process which I wouldn't have otherwise. My career's really evolved quite quickly, but I think I would say it's very, very similar to Ashlea as well, as I've always been very, very forthright about what I want, what I want to get involved with, and I've been very open to communicate that to my leaders, and always expressed interest and curiosity and wanting to try new things, and wanting to, even if I have no experience in something, I will always put my hand up to try. And I think that goes a long way, because there might be 10 other people that also haven't done that, but if you're the only one that puts your hand up for it, then it kind of it helps, right? So yeah, it's evolved unexpectedly, but at each point there's just been either a door's open or an opportunity, and usually, I hate to say it, but it has a lot of the time been just because of someone I've known or someone I've met through at a conference or at an event or something like that. And because I've been involved with ASEG since I was a student, a lot of that I think has come from the connections I've made just organically, just talking to people in the industry. And that could be people that aren't technical, aren't geologists, aren't geophysicists. There might be completely different departments, but oh yeah, I remember I met Mikayla and she said she was doing this, and that's really how I think I've been able to progress my career and evolve so rapidly is really through connections. So yeah, super happy with how it's progressed. And no, I did not ever imagine I'd be working for a space exploration company, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that can happen when you're just continuously curious and open to new opportunities, I think, and willing to challenge yourself as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think you raise a really great point there as well about how networks and maybe having mentors or allies could be actually really impactful in your career. I wonder if anyone else has had maybe somebody or a support network that you've drawn on. Ashlea, is there anybody you can think of that in your career who's really helped you grow and supported you?
Oh, definitely. There's a couple that I could name. But I've also been really fortunate to participate in a few industry mentoring programs, and I think that has also provided a really great foundation and sounding board when I've needed it in my career, particularly around that sort of beyond that initial 3 years where I was off the grad program, establishing myself, or so I thought at least, and then finding that I was in these situations that I really didn't feel I was equipped for or didn't really know how to handle all the time, be them professional, be them conflict resolution on site, things like that. So I put my hand up to be a mentee on a mentoring program, and all I can say is thank you to everyone that helped get me here, because it takes a village, and I appreciate all the support, particularly from other women in the industry, because I think that you'll find as you go, there's so many women supporting women, uplifting women, and just paving the way for us to all succeed. So yeah, I think it's really lovely.
Yeah, no, there's a really good network. And of course, Wiser is an excellent way for you to grow your network if you haven't already got it, or the Osmine networking events as well. Nick, how about yourself? Can you think of what were those seminal moments in your career, or the people who've really made a difference for you?
Yeah, there were a couple. So there were, interestingly enough, particularly early on in my career when I was often the only woman in the room, one of my biggest supporters and sort of biggest champions was one of the guys who was my boss for a while. So he was a mentor for many years, and I don't think I'd be half the metallurgist that I ended up without his support in those early days. And it was he was the one that sort of, it's not just about the one that supports you face to face, it's the person who champions you when you're not in the room. I think that's really important to have those kinds of people in your network, and for you to do the same. The opportunity to put other people's names forwards and to champion others. I think that's something that Wiser does particularly well, is the uplift of women. But there's been a couple of others along the way too, and they often have come from unexpected places. And I've never been in a formal mentoring relationship, but sometimes the best mentors you have are the ones that develop organically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really, you don't know where your next mentor might be. You don't know who your advocate is, but having them is so important. Rebecca, what have you found that's worked for you? Is there any networking or any people at your organization who you found to be impactful for your career, especially as you're changing and growing?
Yeah, I think the networking events particularly have been a great way of getting to people that you might not normally in the industry. So for a while, I was quite regularly attending the WITWA events, which are Women in Tech WA. And even though I'm not necessarily tech-based role, that sort of welcoming community that you're interacting with people who are outside of your regular function can be really valuable. I'd echo what everyone else has said about finding good mentors, and not necessarily formally, but informally, and also the male advocacy as well. So I think if we're only seeking out, as a woman, if I'm only seeking out support from women, I'm missing 50% of the people in the room, if not, well, more in mining, 70% of the people in the room. So I've been really fortunate that I have had a really strong male mentor, which has been great, and informally as well as formally. But yeah, I think being open to conversations with people outside of your normal domain is what I would say is my best tip.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and just being open to opportunities as well, which kind of echoes what all of you are saying as well about your careers across the board, really putting yourself out there and looking actively seeking what you need to support your growth. Taking a bit of a step back now and looking maybe a bit more broadly at the sector, obviously, and mining is going through a lot of changing at the moment. There's lots of innovations happening. How do you stay on top of all of that change? So, Mikayla, maybe how you've changed obviously into a slightly different part of the sector. How do you keep on top of all of this and the rapidly changing environment that we're in?
Yes, it's a tough one. Honestly, it kind of goes back to the network for me. Having fingers in all the pies, like all the society pies, really helps. That gives me kind of the ability to pick up any kind of new technology or anything that's happening in industry, but also academia and also government. What's happening in these sectors? What's being talked about? What's developing? What's coming out that's new? Usually, you can pick up a lot of this information from conferences, technical symposia, things like that. As well as networking opportunities. So that's great. But otherwise, yeah, like just talking to people, whether they're my informal mentors, whether they're people at my company. We have a really good sort of centralized communication platform at Fleet, which allows us to just share things on lots of channels really rapidly. And it's a good way to be able to pick up information that you wouldn't normally from other departments. You wouldn't normally interact with those people, but I find that's really helpful. Otherwise, I know it might sound a bit boring and lame, but I do try and create habits. For example, on a Sunday morning, I like to sit and enjoy, my morning coffee, take it nice and slow, and I'll just read like a new paper, one new paper. So that's how I kind of try to keep up with the technical side of things and what's happening and what's coming out in that space. And then, yeah, with the conferences and that, I just talk to as many people as I can from different places.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad it's not just me on the Sunday morning with the papers or sometimes late at night. So what about yourself, Nick? Because you've obviously changed now. You're a Chief Technology Officer. How on earth do you keep on top of everything that's happening?
It is a challenge, and a lot of it is about time management. So, look, I will preface this by saying I'm really, in some ways, fortunate in that I don't have children at home, so I don't have the sort of out of work workload that a lot of other women have. And I will say, particularly for those who are early on in their career and you sort of maybe haven't got a partner yet, it is so important to have an understanding partner who genuinely has your back and genuinely shares the family load at home. Otherwise, it becomes almost impossible. Having said that, I am a big fan of free stuff or events that are low cost. So things like webinars and low cost technical events. I do a lot of stuff online and I catch public transport. So it's a really good opportunity for podcasts or reading. So it's really about thinking about that time that you have that is not productive time and how you can convert some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about
I
you?
also accept quite a few invitations to speak on panels and to speak at events, because they're also a way to go to events without having to pay. Just as well.
That's a really good tip. And don't be afraid to reach out to people as well. So if you see that there's an event that you're thinking, oh, I really want to attend that, but you're a student or a new professional, just because there isn't a student price or a new professional price doesn't mean that there won't be an opportunity for you. The worst somebody can say is no, and you never know. So, Beck, what about yourself? How do you keep on top of everything? You're doing lots of things up in the air by the sounds of it at the moment.
I was going to say, first of all, I don't think anyone's truly staying on top of all the innovation and tech that we're getting in the industry. So I think like letting go of that you can know all of it is a good start. And then unlike Mikayla's really wholesome Sunday morning, I'm going to go with something a lot more basic, like integrating learning opportunities in things I might already do. So I'm already scrolling social media. So as terrible as that sounds, I think a lot of people are. Go and follow some of the accounts that do updates on tech. And, that might just become part of your like micro learning during the day. Things like subscribing to industry newsletters, and then it pops in your inbox and you get 20 minutes off work to have a bit of a read in the morning is a great way of doing it as well. So I think integrating that learning, obviously making time for learning is important, but I also think integrating it more in smaller chunks during your day is helpful as well.
Yeah, any opportunity. And I think, like Nick said, of making the most of those quiet times, or those times when you do actually, perhaps you weren't doing anything else, whether it's you're cleaning and you're listening to a podcast or you're traveling to work, you can learn a lot during that time. What have you found really works for you, Ashley?
Again, echoing what everyone said around seminars, reading technical papers and things like that. But something else that I've found is a really great and also another free resource is LinkedIn. So I find that there are a lot of great articles, particularly I've built my network around a lot of my interest areas. So you'll find that there's a plethora of information shared on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got to filter some of it. Some of it may not be applicable to your interests, or you might need to do a little bit further research to identify what's truth from fact and things like that. But a great resource. And I must say, I'm not ashamed to reach out and connect with someone on the internet either that I've never met to help build my network, or leave a comment on someone's post that says, hey, I really like what you're talking about. Is there potential that we could go and grab a coffee and have a one-on-one chat? I'd love to learn a little bit more about it. Is there an application where I can use this in my job or my current role? I will also say, when I started my career, I was no good at networking. And I think that was the ceiling that I put on myself. I was so scared to go out and talk to people that I didn't know. Thankfully, now we've got podcasts and things like that. I would read things online, like how to make small talk with people, just to try and have a few ideas kind of pre-populated in my head and fill that void space. But I think practice makes perfect, and also just becoming as comfortable as you can be with being in uncomfortable situations, because not every conversation that you strike up is going to be a win. So just learn from them as well. But also I travel quite a bit in my role, so often it's to regional centres where there really is only mining happening there. So I'll strike up a chat with someone on the plane. So if you see me and you don't want to chat, pop your headphones in straight away. Otherwise, the next hour we are going to be talking work.
Yeah, you can find those opportunities to make connections definitely anywhere. And I think just breaking it down into, if you're in a room, there might be 100 other people in the room, but you can have a one-on-one conversation with someone is really important. And know that not many people are really confident in networking. They might appear like they've got it all together. I've been at networking events with you, Ashley, and you always look like you're nailing it. I never would have guessed that that was how you're feeling. And so I think that's important to kind of remember when you're looking at these people in a room.
Yeah.
So I guess when we're thinking,
trying to find someone that also looks nervous, because then you've got something in common, and then build on that if all else fails.
has anyone else got any tips? Have you tried anything when you've been networking that's worked for you?
I'll sort of step in here too and say one of the really good icebreakers is noticing something about someone. If they've got a really cool pair of earrings or a really cool pair of shoes, or you really love the cut of their jacket, or it's something that's really quite benign and non-threatening, and it's a really good icebreaker that can then sort of lead naturally into deeper conversations. So don't be afraid to start with a compliment. Everybody loves a good compliment. And it really can be a really good icebreaker.
I want to add to that, because I was about to say something along the same vein as Nick, and I really love that you said that, because I actually do this intentionally the other way around. And I always wear, my mum does she makes a lot of crochet clothes. And so I always intentionally wear something crochet to any event that I go to, whether it's a conference or a symposium or whatever. And now I'm known as the person that's always wearing crochet. But I do that because in my head, it's something that's like a bit soft and a bit, it's inviting in a way maybe. And it is a conversation starter, because I usually wear something that's really bright and colourful. And so it kind of matches the geophysics like lens as well. So I always wear something to then invite people to say that I'm friendly and come and talk to me. So I use that trick a lot, just the other way around. Yeah.
Beck, were you going to add something?
No, I was going to say that's so great, Mikayla. I love that. But I have nothing else to add. But yeah, that was a great tip. Love it.
Yeah.
For me, it's shoes. I'm known for my shoes.
I think it's always good to have something so that people can see you around. And yeah, I always wear pink dresses at conferences so that you can spot me in amongst the grey suits. I'll stand out a mile. So if you see a girl in a pink dress, it's probably me when you're at a conference. So if we're thinking to the future and all this innovation that we've talked about is really exciting. And I guess within that, there's also going to be lots of opportunities for the next generation and the people on the call today who are joining us and maybe starting their careers in the sector. What excites you most about that? I'll start with you, Beck. What excites you most about the future in our sector?
I think that we're realizing that there's different pathways that people can take in technical and sort of general managerial pathways. I think previously we didn't necessarily appreciate that just if you're really strong and technical, that you're going to move up the kind of hierarchy in the workplace and become a manager and a next level leader, etc. And so often it ended up with technical people who didn't really want to be people leaders. And, vice versa, maybe people leaders actually really wanted to be technical people. So I think what we're seeing a lot more in the industry is recognizing that there's different pathways to success, I guess you can say, and lateral moves and secondment opportunities overseas. So I think what excites me is the diversity of that and people being able to say, like, I can do really well, but I don't need to be a leader, or I can, forget my sort of technical expertise and focus on being a people leader and bringing my organizational skills through that. So yeah, I think it's definitely an exciting time to be a graduate in the sector.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, just from the panel today, the growth and the changes in all of your careers, that is only going to amplify more in the future. What about yourself, Ashlea? What excites you about the future of our sector?
Look, I have a lot to do in the decarbonisation space, sustainability, and I think we're really at the forefront of really revolutionising mining and energy for the better. So I'm very excited to be a part of a couple of these projects. Again, being a WISER member, learning about the other opportunities that are happening around the industry, and being able to connect other women as well, or other people, not just women, but being able to sort of be that bridge to say, oh, hey, look, I've got someone that I would really like to introduce you to, and I think that you would be well connected. There's a huge synergy there, some partnerships that could be created, and just be a part of the positive change that, we all know that the resources and energy sector, we can be better and we are going to be better. And it's just, being a part of that is very exciting. And I think there's so many different opportunities. There's going to become roles available that we haven't even thought of yet either. So having really diverse thought leaders in this space is just going to help us accelerate and be better.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to make a massive difference. And like you say, there's so much potential coming in the next, hopefully, few years, that there is a lot that can happen and a lot that you can be impactful in if you start your career in the sector now. Nick, how about yourself? What excites you about the next 5 to 10 years in the sector?
Well, look, I think there's a really unique opportunity to really change the way we work, to fully embrace the needs of diverse workers as well, with much more sort of workplace flexibility, even with all the pushback from some of the major organisations. So being really able to embrace neurodiversity, for example, and really embrace the creativity that true diversity brings to conversations and collaborations and sort of innovative problem solving. I honestly think the opportunities are only limited by limited self-belief and people's ability to think in entrepreneurial terms. So the other aspect of it is really cultivating those human skills around emotional intelligence and agility. Just practice in the networking. You know, networking can be an amazing way to develop your own sort of personal elevator speech about, you know, who you are and what you want to be and what you're looking for, and as well as, you know, establishing opportunities for, you know, the progression of your career.
Yeah, and that elevator pitch and those connections that you're making are really important as well. I mean, I was doing some recruitment, and the number of CVs that I got because of ChatGPT, I was really inundated. So really, if you can meet people, your network has never been more important. So those people skills, that elevator pitch that Nick's talking about, so important moving forward. And Mikayla, what excites you for the opportunities for the new generation joining our sector?
Something that really excites me, and maybe it's, you know, being at Fleet now, but is, you know, compute power and AI advancements are really exciting, and they are actually, you know, they're already changing the way we do things. Roles, or, you know, areas that really excite me for the future, and I think that today's sort of emerging scientists, or just, you know, people at university or going to university soon, I think data science, or just data in general, I think data is the currency of the future, and I do think that data philosophers, if you want to say that, that might be a new thing emerging. But I think that, you know, people that are growing up now, I am already so just astounded and amazed by their capability and I guess intuition around technology that, you know, maybe even my generation and previous generations just didn't have, because we just didn't have that, you know, access. So that really excites me for people of the future to become data philosophers, and to be, I guess, yeah, just doing things that we probably can't even imagine today with data, and yeah, I think that whole area is just really exciting and really uncertain as well, which, you know, that means that it's really in the hands of the future. That's the people that are emerging now are going to shape how that looks, and it's just a really exciting time. So that's the space that I'd watch.
Yeah, no, I think when you think about so many, you know, you're growing up with iPads, you're growing up with all this technology, how far we've come, and we didn't do that. So they're already starting from that massive skyscraper level. I think my 6-year-old is better with the iPad than I am. So gosh knows when she ends up, hopefully in a career in the sector where she's going to end up. It is a really exciting time, definitely. And so just to finish up for each of you, what would be your one bit of advice if you could go back to yourself when you were starting out your careers? What piece of advice would you give to yourself? I'll start with you, Ashlea.
Oh, I think it would have to be around don't limit my beliefs to what I think I should be doing, or what I think women should be doing, or some sort of traditional role, and ask for what I want, because people aren't going to assume that they know what I want, or if I'm not articulating it, how is anyone going to know where I want to be in the future? So don't be afraid to ask for things that you want, and also don't limit yourself. That would be my advice.
Really great advice. Rebecca, how about you?
Gosh, Ashlea, you picked the good one.
Sorry.
I think something around like nothing about your path has to look conventional for it to be meaningful.
Yeah.
I like started uni and quit uni and went traveling and then came back to uni, and then so I think do what energizes you or what feels right at the time. Don't kind of get caught on it has to be a certain way, because you never know what opportunity might kind of lie around a different corner. So yeah, be open to different opportunities and don't get stressed about doing things in a particular order.
It's really great. And Nick, how about you?
One of the things I would say to myself is to stay curious, and don't lose sight of your inner child. It can be really easy in this industry, particularly for those of us who've been in it a long time, to get quite cynical. So sort of don't go down that path. And also, no matter what goes down, and no matter how badly behaved the people around you are, stay along the path. Be a good person. Don't let people drag you down to their level.
That is very important. And again, that's where maybe your network comes in, because there's going to be times where the people that you're working directly with, sometimes it's not going to go very well, and you need to draw on that network to support, to chat about what's happening, and maybe just get some advice and go, is it just me, or is this really not right? So Mikayla, how about you? What would you tell yourself if you could go back to the beginning of your career?
Apart from all the things these lovely ladies have already said, which are amazing, honestly, I think the advice that I'd give myself, my younger self, and to everyone on the call is to not get too caught up in the end goal and actually enjoy the process of learning, because that is the most rewarding part to me. And that's why I love my job every day. I love what I'm doing today because I'm still learning and I learn every day. So try not to get too caught up in, oh, once I get to this position, or I have this title, or I've achieved this thing, then I'll have been successful, or I'll be happy, or whatever. Try and enjoy the process of getting there just as much, because really that's what you're living. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Ashley, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to touch on something because Nick said it earlier, and I think I just need to reiterate it to everyone as well as my younger self around that resilience piece. So it can be quite challenging still in today's world to be particularly a young female starting out in a still very predominantly male environment. So around that resilience piece, I think having a mentor or someone a sounding board that you can bounce off is really important. But if you find yourself in a role like I did, where I'd started this role, it was a long commute for me to travel out to the site. I'd been there for 8 months and just I knew that it wasn't the right fit for me, but I thought, no, I can't be a quitter. I don't want this to look bad on my resume that I haven't stayed for at least a year. For my own peace of mind, allowing myself to leave that role and find a better fit for me. I think that was a real turning point for me to, as Mikayla said, find something that I really enjoyed and not being too hard on myself. So resilience is one thing, but not forcing yourself to do something that you're ultimately not enjoying.
Yeah, knowing when to say okay and to trust yourself to be able to do that. That must have been a really difficult decision. What gave you the strength to kind of go, actually, enough?
I think it was the almost the dread, dare I say it, of having to go back out to site each week. And I remember like laying in bed on a Sunday night thinking, why am I going to this job? Why? If I'm not enjoying it, I know it's not what I want to be doing right now. I appreciate that it's taught me a lot in this 8 month period, but it's not something that I want to do long term. So what am I going to gain if I stay the full 12 months? And allowing myself just that freedom to say, all right, well, I'm just going to throw my resume out there and see what else I land. And it actually turns out that I had a conversation with somebody else in that organization, and I was able to move into another role with that same company and stay there for another 4 years. So that was really amazing.
That's really, really great. And everything that you learned, even though during that time it was challenging, that's built you to who you are today and helped you grow. So there's never a lost opportunity when you say yes and try something. And the conversation obviously led to something else that was really phenomenal. So
Yeah,
thank you so much
absolutely.
for being honest and sharing with us, and to all of our panelists today for all of your stories and being willing to share what have been amazing journeys. And I hope you're all really proud of everything you've achieved, because you've all done phenomenally. I'd also wanted to just draw attention to the screen. So we have 2 QR codes up there that if you click on those, one of them will take you to the Women in METS program at Osmine, and the other QR code goes to the Wiser website, where you can find out a little bit more about Wiser. Just to finish us up, Ashley, did you want to tell us a little bit about the Wiser, the kind of events that you run, and why would someone want to join this network? What does it offer?
Sure. So WISER, as we discussed earlier and throughout this piece, is Women in Sustainable Energy and Resources. And it's really just a great community of women at all different levels of their careers, organizations, companies, females running their own companies and businesses. And it provides opportunities, as you touched on earlier, Claire, for visibility, building confidence and meaningful connections. So we've got a number of events that we host throughout the year, ranging from free to very low cost, because that is something that we are passionate about, building environments that are very inclusive and equitable. So we have wiser walks around the country. They're a Saturday morning, just turn up, bring your dog, bring your children if you have them, and meet some other women in the sustainable energy and resources sector. They're usually in Townsville, Brisbane, either Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, things like that. So we've got quite a great community that's still growing around Australia. We do a high tea for International Women's Day. We have some really great panel events as well for speakers and people to come and learn about just different challenges and opportunities and things like that. Nick, help me out here. I feel like there's so much that we do.
There is. We also have a partnership with Women on Boards. And so
Yes,
if you're wanting to learn about what's involved in getting on boards, and let me just caveat that by saying boards aren't just ASX boards. Your sporting organisation, that the committee that runs that is effectively a board. So if you want to get involved in not-for-profits and charity organisations and things like the Wiser Committee and what have you, the Women on Boards partnership will teach you so much about what you need to know around governance and responsibility and fiduciary or financial obligations and what have you, and about whether that is a good pathway for you. And the value of that partnership is just, it's incredible. We also do like Ashlea said, we actually do networking events. So we've had a couple of speed networking events. We have an event called Women on Top, where we go to rooftop bars, but we also use them as opportunities to showcase some of the entrepreneurship amongst the women within our organisation. So women who've started their own businesses or developed their own apps or things like that. We at some point are going to start a book club. We're still sort of working on the mechanics of that. We do quite a lot of celebrating of our members on LinkedIn. So we showcase some of the members of our organisation in terms of what they're achieving and how they're sort of uplifting women. So it's a lot. And yeah, if you go to our website, Wiser Inc., Google us and you'll see the upcoming events.
I'm sure there's one near you. I think we've had 73 events in the 2 short years that WISE has been established. So something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are some of the friendliest events you'll come to because it's all women, which is very rare, obviously, in this sector, and they're all very supportive. So highly recommend you go and check out Wiser. They're on LinkedIn as well. You can follow them on LinkedIn. You can join the Women in METS LinkedIn page as well, which is our Accelerating Women in METS program. Find out more about all those ways that you can connect and really help grow your career and build your network as you're starting off. So thanks again to our lovely panelists for participating today and sharing their stories with you. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Claire. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.